I'd like to talk about the expected or anticipated new library feature that's being added to JCB. I'm still in the developing phase of this. I've been working on the UI, which really is just how I anticipate it should function. It's not yet set in stone because I have not yet started adapting the compiler to make use of this new feature. But it is anticipated to actually eventually become more fixed and steady. So I want to basically illustrate two things. One is that we have this Bootstrap library set up. Now this Bootstrap library, this specific name here, is linked to many snippets. And so it can never change. So even I've made it that even if you try to change it and you click save, it will actually revert back to the correct name. And so that's only with regards to libraries that already become part of the Joomla Component Builder community snippets libraries. So every time we have new libraries contributed to the community, then that library its name will become fixed. So it cannot be changed. And it's a way of protecting the system from collapsing on itself, because if people could just change these things in their own JCB, then it could end up making so many confused results. Anyway, what they still can change is the way that the library is actually added to components. Now currently I set it up that it basically links to these two URLs, and it has this always add. Now that means on every page where Bootstrap 4 is being used, it will always add these files. Now we might later see when Joomla 4 is released that there are some local Joomla 4 libraries we would rather use, like you have for jQuery at this stage. If you want to use jQuery on the page, you wouldn't do this kind of inclusion. You would rather use the internal Joomla API to get those libraries on the page. And for that I added this custom script option. Now there are two places where in every view there are two types of functions used to add the specific library to the page. The one function is this prepare document function, and the other one is set document. And the one function uses the document directly, the variable naming, and then adds script because it actually adds the document to the document variable. The other one grabs upon a global document variable, and it's really based on from which class it is inheriting and so forth. So there are basically therefore two methods being used to adding the custom or the library to any page. And so when you use this custom script option, you would target these two features, or functions or methods, class methods, which will then adequately be available for every page that makes use of this library. The other one is a conditional option. Now the conditional option is the better option really, because this one would actually adapt the code on the basis of the implementation per view. So here you would select the files that you have include, and you would say whether it's include or exclude. Obviously if you select exclude, it means it will always include it unless these behaviors that you're going to set over here is actually if it is successful, valid. Now those of you who know the conditional concept within fields, I've just taken that same conditional concept and I'm now just applying it on adding or not adding a file. So it's really very much the same. So you still have this isolate or chain option, and the reality is you can now there are no config fields yet. You need to first go here and create a config field. Now a config field is really an existing field that you have already created before coming here. So I haven't saved this as a condition, so I'm just going to quickly save that. And then I'm going to go here to edit, And you'll see the config library. If I click on it here, I basically can select any field out of my whole list of fields. So I've already made one just for our illustration. Bootstrap 4 radio. And that's really the field. I want it to be in the library tab. So this again is very much similar to the component config options area, except now we are selecting fields for the library, which will in effect be added to the components global options area. Okay, so let's save and close here. Now we'll see in this drop down that field comes up here. So if we select it, that fields have two options, yes and no. So if this library and that library file, we want to include it when add bootstrap button is set to yes. So here is the selection option. Now, so that's the conditional way of doing it. So basically you have at this stage we'll have 3 to 4 ways of actually adding the fields onto the page. The reason why this conditional one is not being shipped this way at the moment is because I'm not shipping these fields. And the whole idea of creating a field on all of those who in all the systems of those who use JCB, I'm still pondering whether I should write a script to do that. So that's really the issue. If we ship this as the standard way of including the Bootstrap libraries, then I'll need to create this add Bootstrap version 4 field on every system and then link it in here with correct IDs and stuff. And so I haven't actually done that. And like I said, we are now looking at how can we do this. We want to make this dynamic, because now let's say someone has a specific file that they so let me just save this. They have a specific file which if someone is using Bootstrap and they want to add a specific extra feature and they need more JavaScript on the page, they could create that file, click here by going to add new files. And now let's say it's a local file. They could click here and they can collect any file. I'm just going to make it any file. And just like with the component include, when you add custom files to your component, you have that same feature really here, except you can also use URLs. So it's the same custom adding of files or folders. So now you want to have this Bootstrap mini.js in the media Bootstrap 4. There we go. You want it in that folder JS. That's really where you want to put this file. And you don't want the file itself to be updated. That file name you want to keep. And you want to have it available to the library. So now you click Save and Close. So now, if we look here, we'll see now there's a file called bootstrap mini.js. But you don't want it to always be included. You want it to be included only if there is a specific switch tripped on this use of this file. The idea is now that you would go to the config library and you'd create a new field. And let's say that this new field is, let's say, I'm just going to use a generic one, add more. Yeah. And obviously it should be more related to Bootstrap, but just for our explanation. Then you would say that specific field, which is this case, it's this one, should, when add more is set yes, then it should be added. Now, that is as far as I've come to sort of think about implementing these kind of features dynamically. You see, previously I wrote all this hard-coded right into the compiler, and based on its own automated observation of the UIKit version 2, if it found specific classes, it dynamically added files or didn't add files. Now, I'm thinking that if you want to be so customized and dynamic, then you won't use the conditional option. You'll rather use the custom script option. You still have these two buttons that you can then use the global values of, you can still get those values in this script here and act upon it and load in the libraries with custom scripting. Now I did some prep on that kind of approach here in food table. It's actually, it says here, this food table style. So you need to now actually line up a field value with food table style, and then it will dynamically add the specific CSS classes to the page for both this prepare document and for set document. So you have add always, then you have add conditions or custom script. Let me just say another thing about the condition option. The condition option, I'm pondering whether this condition option should have a global value and also a page value. You see, if it have a page value, then you can override the global value with the page value. So it's almost like if we detect that, let's say, Bootstrap 4 is being used in a specific view, and that view has a menu, then dynamically we will add to that menu the function of these buttons, as well as having it added up into the global options of the component itself. So there will be global options, and the page will fall back onto the global options, unless someone would manually override that in the, because when is that usually the case? If they have another library or another component that already loads the files, and they want to exclude it from the page because it's already there. And that's why I'm thinking about, having it on the page as well as globally. And if you feel, well, I don't want my user to really decide whether these, libraries should ever be on the page, well, then in that case, add always. And then these files will, including this one, will always be added to the page, and we will take care of the script or the code to achieve that. And now I was also thinking, if we want to have some files only be added always, then it is the files that you do not actually, if you want, for example, if you want these two files to be always added, then within conditions, you'll only create a condition for the files you want to have a condition for. So that the files that is not being targeted by conditions will automatically always be added. Anyway, that is at this stage some of the thoughts I have. I'm thinking, I'm going to say that if any of you want to give more ideas, then grab out your screen recorder, open this page, and talk through and explain some things in a little tutorial and post it on YouTube as a response to this tutorial, or go to our GitHub discussion area. We are busy with this discussion here on GitHub. It's issue 92, Bootstrap or UIKit version 3 or Bootstrap option. It's in this issue that this long discussion is going on, and where this whole library idea is actually forming and expanding. You'll see I already typed a little response here that I want to post with this tutorial that I'm making as a URL. So really what I would like to say is I'm busy trying to answer this new functionality, and this is the way I've gone about doing it at this stage. And I know that these libraries that are already in our component, Bootstrap, UIKit, and Food Table, I'm going to end up adding enough information for these libraries so that they will just work out of the box. That's going to be my responsibility, to put all the necessary code and scripting and everything in place so that this option will just work, all of them. And just when someone wants to expand on them, will they need to do so. But it is obviously a once-off situation. Once I've implemented this new feature and set these functions and properties in place, and people make adaptations to it, I cannot update it again. And so having enough input to think about all possible angles and to approach this in a way that really makes it dynamic and really doesn't overcomplicate things is really what I'm trying to achieve, although that seems difficult. Anyway, this is just a little heads up tutorial looking at how to use the new libraries area. And obviously, if you want a specific functionality in Bootstrap 4, you cannot now create a new Bootstrap 4 library with new files. You need to expand on the existing one. And that's the whole point. We want to make it that the existing library can be adapted and changed and improved. At this stage, that adaptation and those improvements will only be relevant to the one who's doing it. And so that might be something we're going to think about. And you should talk about. Would we want everybody to share their adaptations, or will we just set the stage with the original adaptation and then whatever changes they make is up to them? Anyway, this is again a tutorial I just made in the outset of this new functionality, looking and asking, please give me feedback and let me know what you think. Thank you.